was born a ranter, he will die a ranter. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure we have something very special coming from Chris. Chris Ecker, take it away.
Thank you very much.
Oh, did you want to talk about the...
No, I got it.
Okay.
So I actually think I'm going to have the distinction of having the least ranty rant of the Rant panel this year. It's going to be interesting to see.
Oh, wait, I didn't give Chris a proper introduction. Chris is formerly of Electronic Arts, and unlike all of the other panelists, I don't think that you currently have a job. In other words, you're indie, right?
But he has accountability.
My rants these days start with the word "please" a lot, and so I think I think we need a different word from rant. I know we need to come up next year. But before we get on to my rant, there's a bit of business we have to attend to each year. As is our way here, we bestow the Duct Tape Award on the best rant of the previous year. Anyone have any idea who's going to get it this year? Heather. Yes, Heather Chaplin. Who remembers Heather Chaplin's rant last year? Two choice quotes from Heather's rant. You guys, as game designers, are mired deeply in guy culture. It's not that your form is adolescent, it's that you are a bunch of stunted adolescents. Unfortunately, Heather had a last-minute thing and was unable to make it to the GDC. She had to cancel, so she was nice enough to send me a video of her duct tape acceptance award.
Thank you, Colin. Very honored to be here receiving the annual prestigious, coveted Duct Tape Award. Not something I ever really expected to have on my resume.
I have to wonder that Heather is from New York, so they use black duct tape there.
Following in the path of Clint Hawking is always exciting.
Well,
I guess the only thing I really want to say about last year's rant is kind of got the feeling I touched a nerve. I'm very upset about it. And the thing that really struck me about how upset people were was this reaction, which was basically, get off our backs, lady. We just produce entertainment. We're just trying to make people have fun. And that just doesn't make any sense to me, because what do you mean you're just producing entertainment? You're just trying to let people have fun. Entertainment is culture. You guys are the 21st century culture makers, and culture is the glue that holds a society together. So I'm not really saying that I have to come away from your games like knowing how to do calculus or be better at geography, but don't you want your games to be more than just entertainment or just cool? Don't you want them to be like enriching and as fantastic as they can be? So, you know, step up, step to the plate, have some respect for what you're doing. Thank you very much.
All right. So, my rant is entitled, Please Finish Your Game. You know, normally, for the past few years, I have a disclaimer due to circumstances that were in my control. Normally my disclaimer has something to do with, like, you know, these are my views, not my company's views, but as Eric said, I got laid off from Maxis last year, so I don't actually have a company, it's my own little company, and those are my views. So, but this year, actually, I have a different disclaimer, and I often, like my last year's rant was about the press and how really you have an important job to do to be accurate with what people are saying, because I've been misrepresented in the press a bunch. But this one's actually taking it a step deeper. My disclaimer this time is this. I'm going to try and say something slightly subtle here in my rant. So if you're going to cover this on your blog or your news site, please try and understand that subtle thing and talk about that, not any individual quote that you might be able to twist out of context. Who knows what this is? Okay. So back in 2001, we did this thing called the Indie Game Jam. It's had 4 or 5 or 6 things since then. For people who don't know, it's a gathering of a small gathering of people who put games together in a small amount of time, like 4 days is what it was. There's actually a whole bunch of these. This is Dare, which started around the same time. They've actually had 17 of these. These are 48-hour game jams, basically. And if you look at the links on the Indie Game Jam Wikipedia page, there's a whole bunch of things here. Like, I think the Lithuanian Game Jam was actually the first who sent us mail. Like, can we do a Game Jam too? Or like, hell yeah, after we had actually looked up where Lithuania was on the map. Just do it. And like, there's Toronto and everything, and like Tig Jam, and now this is a global Game Jam, and I'm sure next year there'll be the Interstellar Game Jam, and then the local group Game Jam, and it's just like, it's a huge, everybody's doing Game Jams, right? So, these are all awesome, right? We contributed a lot to this. This is really cool. And this is just all benefit to the industry, right? I'm not so sure, actually. Okay, I'm gonna come back to this. Who knows who this is? This is Cactus. He wakes up in the morning and has accidentally made 3 games at night while he slept. Cactus is full of wind. He's also frequently full of beer. This is a picture I took at the award ceremony the other night, and this is his table. He's right off screen here, and to his knee, you can see his hat right there. He probably made more games during the award ceremony than beers he drank, but it's not clear. There's Petri in the back. I don't know what is up with these Scandinavian indie kids, but they're going to drink themselves to death by the time they're 30. But Cactus is also full of productivity, so let's go to Cactus's webpage. He's also insane. So these are some of the games Cactus has made, and it just keeps going and going and going. He outlasted his hosting provider here, and then it goes on longer. It's the guy's. He's a machine. I'm 40 this year, and I've shipped 1 game. Okay, but that's actually not what I want to talk about here. I want to talk about this. I hope you can see this. See this little section right here? Every one of these says development time. And so here's 1 day. Here's 1 day, 4 days, 2 days, 4 hours, 1 day, 2 days, 2 hours, 4 hours. You get the idea. And in fact, it's not just Cactus. If you go on like TixSource and whatever, it's actually a badge of honor to complete games very quickly in the indie game community these days. Like, the amount of development time is front and center in when you present a game, how long I took. And I'm actually starting to worry about this. Now, in the indie community, it's kind of cool, as Frank Lamp would say, kind of punk rock to make these games really quickly. But the same thing happens also in the mainstream game industry. It's very responsible to ship games on schedule. There was a quote from Kojima a couple of months ago that was something along the lines of, when you've announced a ship date, the worst thing you can do is not hit your ship date. The worst thing. Like, not ship a crappy game, not like kill all your employees, like you have to hit the ship date, right? Like, there's a Miyamoto quote, this is my favorite Miyamoto quote, which is like, a delayed game is late until it ships, basically, or it's bad until it ships, but a bad game is bad forever if you ship a bad game. So it seems to me there's a lot of things worse than shipping a little bit late, or even a lot late. So here's a thought problem for you. This is actually a scale I drew in PowerPoint this morning. On this side, we're going to put the Indie Game Jam game. So here's Angry God Bowling. I can't remember what that game's called, and that's the firefighting game. And there's here's the Shadow Garden year. And then I think we get to physics here. Yeah, here's physics. Ending up, there's a lot of games. Jesus Christ. Okay, there we end with Stunt Hamsters. And on this side, we're gonna put Braid. Now we're gonna let the scale go. Now Braid is of course fucked when all these games fall on top of it and crush it to death. But in terms of contribution to the industry and the art form, I think this is inarguable. And the reason why is because Braid explored its mechanic to the depth that the mechanic deserved. Like, John, he didn't even come up with the time manipulation mechanic. It was like, there were a couple other games out there at the time, a bunch of people had talked about rewinding games, but he took that and he actually explored it fully, and to the logical and artistic extent. This is not about time and task. Braid is not a better game than the Indie Game Jam games because it took 3 years and the Indie Game Jam games took 4 days. I spent 6 years on a game that did not explore its fundamental mechanic to its aesthetic conclusions. Editor consequence in Spore, I would have worked on Spore for longer to make it the game that I think it should have been. That is not the quote you want to use in your fucking website, okay? We need more depth depth and understanding in games, we don't need more wacky ideas and shallow games that ship on time. This is a quote in the Indie Game Jam mails we sent, because we realized early on that when we were doing this thing for 4 days, we needed to really make people concentrate on finishing something so that we could, like, have something to play with afterwards, and like people would have a sense of closure and a sense of like accomplishment during that time. And while I agree with the quote as it appears out of context in this slideshow, I agree with it in the sense that I've been talking about now. Finish your game to the extent that it deserves. I don't actually agree to it with the way I meant it there. You want to, it doesn't matter if you can make a game in 2 days or 1 hour or 14 minutes or 6 years. It matters that you make the game it should be. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Now, refreshing the party. Now, it turns out that we actually have, where's Jason? Jason in the back. It turns out that we actually...
Eric, we gotta stop.